Hi, everybody. Happy Oscar weekend. I'm Vincent Georgie. I'm WIFF's Executive Director and Chief Programmer. Welcome to our special episode of WIFF Off Script. Right before this year's Academy Awards, we want to share with you not what our predictions are for this year's Oscars, but the films that we think should win, or the performers or craftsmen and craftswomen that we think should win. It's who we would vote for if we could vote. So joining me in today's episode will be Maria Cusumano, our Digital Asset Manager for the festival. Maria, welcome.
Nice to be here. I'm
For
very
sure.
excited about our chat today.
We'll have some fun with this. And you're obviously super knowledgeable at film as well and really, really passionate. So I can't wait to see your picks. So, what the concept is, again, for this episode is Maria has made her selections on all of the films that she would vote for in each category. I have done the same. I do not know what Maria has selected. She does not know what I've selected. And we've got each other's sets of envelopes. That these are the envelopes that Maria's prepared with her winners, and she's got mine. So we're going to go through the nominees and see which I would vote for, and then engage in a discussion around how we came to our choices. And obviously, the other thing too with this will certainly provide everybody with a whole bunch of, I'm sure, of recommendations for films to watch, and also make Oscar night all that much more exciting. And again, this year's Oscars take place on Sunday, March 27th. The telecast will air on ABC. So it should be a pretty exciting time. We'll see how good the telecast is. And there's a lot of discussion about that on social media. I'm a little bit worried about how that's going to go. But regardless, let's focus on the films. So Maria, first category is yours.
Absolutely. The first category is actress in a supporting role. The nominees are Jessie Buckley in The Lost Daughter, Ariana DeBose in West Side Story, Judi Dench in Belfast, Kristen Dunst in The Power of the Dog, and Ingenue Ellis in King Richard. So Vincent's pick for Best Supporting Actress is Jessie Buckley in The Lost Daughter.
Yeah. This category is actually kind of hard. I really had to give it a decent amount of thought of who I would go with, and ultimately came down to Ingenue Ellis from King Richard or Jessie Buckley. And by a hair, I gave it to Jessie Buckley because I thought she had a bit of a tougher challenge in her role in the film The Lost Daughter. It's a more isolated performance that she doesn't engage with most of the rest of the cast. And I thought she actually had a bit of a bigger challenge because of it. It's a pretty unlikable character as far as I felt. I actually liked the character that Anjali Ellis played in King Richard much more. But I thought Jessie Buckley did a really, really tremendous job anchoring a part of the film where she didn't have as much cast support as elsewhere in the film. I think it's a really terrific performance. I think she's a great actress, and she would get my vote. How about yourself? Or, yeah, sorry. Any thoughts on that before we go to your envelope?
I think that that's a very, very strong choice. This entire category is just all about mothers. Um,
Right.
you have Jessie Buckley, Judi Dench, Kirsten Dunst, Ingenue Ellis, and I think Jessie Buckley she plays a very prickly character, and you know what? I'm waiting for her to break out. There's going
Yeah.
to be a moment where Jessie Buckley just goes from being like these subtle roles to she's going to be everywhere because
Yes.
she's
Yes.
a phenomenal actress, and I think she had a very subtle performance and she did a great job. You understood sort of why she made the choices she made in
Yeah.
that situation.
So I'm hoping with your envelope that you also picked her based on what you're saying, because I thought she was pretty fantastic. Let's see. So Maria's pick would be Ariana DeBose in West Side Story. Good choice.
So I went in a bit of a different direction. I think Ariana DeBose she has the anchoring performance in West Side Story.
Yep.
I think she has the best numbers. She has the best moments. You know what? Kirsten Dunst, she was tremendous in The Power of the Dog, but I don't think this is her performance. I want
Yeah, I
her to
agree.
win an Oscar for lead category for something that she's just knocking out of the park. Ariana DeBose did it forwards, backwards, in heels, singing and dancing. I
Yeah.
think this is her one shot at an Oscar right now, at least within the sort of I'm guessing prestige musicals. And I think she just did a phenomenal job in the role.
I think she did, and I think likely she's going to win. She wouldn't have gotten my vote. I think really quite simply in that I think it just came down to preference, to be honest.
Mhm.
I think it just came down to preference. But I mean, in terms of someone that's hustling for the award, Erin DeBose has to do a lot in that performance. There's no question about it. If she were to win, I
Mhm.
wouldn't be mad, but Buckley would get my vote. But good choice, good choice. All right, next category: best cinematography. So nominees for best cinematography are Dune, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and West Side Story. And Maria's pick for best cinematography is two in a row now. West Side Story. Another Oscar for West Side Story. Maria, tell us about that.
I was a fan of West Side Story, and I feel Dune is probably going to take it. I'm being a bit of a contrarian here, but I think so much of Dune, it is very, very grand cinematography, but so much of it comes down to CGI. And I
Yeah.
understand that that's a challenge in its own right. I feel like West Side Story is using CGI in a really immersive way, in a way that you might not even think like, oh, this is a soundstage. It feels realistic. And I think it's a very, very strong choice. Overall, I had a hard time nailing down because I'm also a big fan of the Tragedy of Macbeth. I think Bruno Delbonnel did a phenomenal
Yeah.
job with that. Honestly, this was one where I just like flipped a coin and I went with it. Yeah.
This is interesting because I can tell you right now, West Side Story would have been my fifth choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was for me. That was for me at least. That was a very easy as far as cinematography. It's good, but I didn't think it was in the same league as the other nominees. Actually, that's interesting. It's a good choice, but I didn't give it 2 seconds thought.
Listen, I'm glad we have some
Hey,
conflict
yeah,
here
yeah, yeah.
because
It's gonna get aggressive. Let me tell you.
oh yes. Oh yes, we'll fight it out. I
Yeah,
picked
yeah,
some, I
yeah.
think, just to be contrarian at
Yeah,
some
right,
point.
right, right, right.
Because I'm like, it's not a fun discussion if we're both just sitting here being like, listen,
You
we
picked
love
Lady Gaga for House of Gucci regardless. You know what I
it.
mean?
Vincent, I'm not a monster. I may be a little monster, but I'm not a big monster.
Awesome, awesome. Well, open up my envelope.
All right, let's see. And Vincent's choice is, ooh, The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Yeah, I thought it was not just beautiful, it was the one nominee that I thought had done something on camera I'm not sure I had seen before, and that's why I picked
Mm,
it. The look of that film, it's not style over substance. I just thought it was actually maybe the most original in the way it was filmed and the lighting work and the camera work. I just was really taken aback by the look of that film. I thought it was really quite, I thought it was new, for me at least. I thought it was really
you
a
know,
look that I was really taken by.
it feels like it plays on a lot of things of like stage magic and
Yeah, yeah,
sort of like old timey silent film German
yeah,
expressionism a little
yeah.
bit. And I think that's what I really, really loved about Tragedy of Macbeth. But who knows? Sometimes you just want dialogue. You want a little,
Exactly. Yes, from time to
you want
time, don't we?
okay. So the next category is costume design.
Yeah.
And the nominees are Cruella, Cyrano, Dune, Nightmare Alley, and West Side Story. And Vincent's choice is, all right, let's see. Oh, I'm just like the celebrities, not
Right,
celebrities just
right.
like me. Dune.
Yeah. I picked Dune. I expected to go for maybe something more like Cruella or even Nightmare Alley, but I landed on Dune because I thought it was more restrained than the other nominees, but I thought it was still really creative and interesting. Um, and I noticed the costumes in Dune in a way that I thought really created that whole world for me. They really worked for me. They're much more subdued than the costumes in the other films, but I really thought they were really quite strong. I was actually quite impressed by them ultimately. I thought they were. There's even a couple of jackets and that I was looking. I'm like, I'd wear that. I'm like, bring it on. But so based on combination of artistic excellence and also I'd buy that. So I picked Dune.
It is a very immersive film. It's a film that it's less so like the 80s Dune where you're
Yeah.
just like, okay, this feels very much like a space fantasy. You're just like, this feels like it could exist somewhere out there.
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting. No, well done. So let's see if Maria agrees or not. Let's see. So far we have no agreement so far. Let's
Oh,
see. Are we gonna agree on this one? We will not. Maria is a very good choice. Maria picked Cruella.
listen, the film so. The dogs, they eat her parents. Spoilers. However, however, the costumes are big, the
Yes.
costumes are very well done, and I
Yes.
think when it comes to costume design, at least in the eyes of the Academy, they tend to go with who is doing the most.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, they do, and it's a really good choice. If Cruella won, that's an excellent choice as well. No doubt, no doubt at all. Really good choice. That's Jenny Bevan, and if she wins for Cruella, this will be her third Oscar. She did.
Mhm.
She won an Oscar for Mad Max: Fury Road, and she won an Oscar for A Room with a View.
And I know Disney is hustling hard to get it in the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, for sure. Lots of hustling going on at Disney nowadays.
Yes.
Anyway, all right, next category, Best Production Design. Let me cue that up. So the nominees for Best Production Design are, let me get that ready. Where are we here? There we go. Best Production Design, Dune, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and West Side Story. And Maria's pick for production design, these are good nominees. Maria's choice for production design is, I've totally ripped the envelope, The Tragedy of Macbeth. Tell us about it, Maria.
I feel like this is the flip side of the coin that you said for cinematography. I believe that the spaces that are created for this film are completely unique. It's not staged like any other production of Macbeth I've ever seen. And I think it plays almost like it feels dreamlike. And I believe that the way that the production design is rendered creates that dreamlike feeling. It's realistic, but it's not real. It's really, really interesting the way it's put together.
Open the envelope.
All right, let's see. The Tragedy of Macbeth.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think we're the only two people cheering, like jonesing out over the Tragedy of Macbeth tonight on the video. But I mean, yeah, it's absolutely for all. I can't say it better than you said it. Exactly. That's precisely would get my vote for production design. No doubt. Let's go over to makeup and hairstyling. Maria, kick that off for us.
All right. In makeup and hairstyling, the nominations are Coming to America, Cruella, Dune, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, and the perennial frontrunner, House of Gucci. I'm sorry. I had to. And Vincent's choice is Dune.
Totally. Yeah, I thought really good hair and makeup jobs in that film. A lot of effort on screen, obviously. I think they have a tall task ahead of them. I think they really did. I think it's just more in just terms of like what you asked that team to do was no small feat. That would get my vote.
Oh, listen, makeup and hairstyling in Dune to make Baron Harkonnen, to make him sort of melt.
Exactly right. Whereas I think, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like with their costumes, it's that they actually exist in the space. It's very realistic that they exist in that space.
Precisely right. The other nominees, specifically see something like Eyes of Tammy Faye or Coming to America, it's more character makeup. It's not that it's not good. It's good for, like, they weren't tasked with what Dune was asked to do, but just in terms of complexity of what was asked of the team, I think Dune had the tallest order, had to pull off the most, and I'd argue pull off maybe the best. So maybe you agree with me, maybe not. Let's see. And Maria landed on best makeup and hairstyling. Maria's choice would be The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
I went in the opposite direction. I went with more of the character makeup because I followed the Tammy Faye saga. I've listened to all the podcasts that you're wrong about, and I think that they just were able to make a space where it's realistic that these people exist in this space. Looking at the two sort of television throwback films that we had this year with Being the Ricardos and The Eyes of Tammy Faye. In Being the Ricardos, I did not buy it whatsoever.
No,
in the Eyes of Tammy Faye, good point. In The Eyes of Tammy Faye, I watched it and I said, I buy that that's Tammy Faye Baker. I buy that that's Jim Baker. And I feel like such a great deal of that was the makeup and hairstyling sort of putting you in that space.
No, Murray, that's an excellent point. I think the single biggest problem with Being the Ricardos was none of that should have gone past the initial makeup tests or camera tests. Under no circumstance should that have gone to camera. That fundamentally ruined that film. So we can imagine, I guess, our votes for those categories later on. But yeah, listen, no, that was Eyes of Tammy Faye on that front, I think, was good. You know what? Where I think I would quibble on it, why Dune would get my vote ahead of it.
Okay.
I don't know that they nailed the makeups on Andrew Garfield and Jessica Chastain. I thought there was something just a little bit that was like, yes, but not like spot. Because again, they have a challenge in we have photos to pull from real people.
Exactly.
Whereas with Dune, you're inventing. But there was something a little bit close, but a little bit off for me, a little bit. Being the Ricardos is a train wreck on that front.
You know what I think it might be? It might be a generational thing because I wasn't
Ah,
there as they originally came to precedence and I didn't see them,
right,
on the
right, right,
news
right, right.
crying about things. So I was like, close enough.
Right, yeah, no, no, right, right. For sure. I remember the days when they were crying on the news, so I've got a different memory. But it's still a good choice. And honestly, I think actually both these films, to be honest, I think are probably the front runners. So either one could win. It's not a bad choice at all, honestly. I think just a bit of difference of opinion. But hey, this is
Okay.
good. This is good. Next category: Best Animated Feature. So the nominees for Best Animated Feature are Encanto, Flea, Luca, The Mitchells versus the Machines, and Raya and the Last Dragon. Maria's choice for Best Animated Film is, this is a good choice, The Mitchells versus the Machines.
So I feel like this is a bit of a contrarian pick in this category because everybody thinks it's going to either go to Kanto or Flea. For me, I had to do a little bit of calculus with this. I
Yep.
feel Mitchell's versus the Machines on a technical level. The
Mhm.
studio at Sony is doing such interesting things in creating a style that's sort of CGI, but still kind of bringing in little bits of hand drawn animation and
Yes.
finding ways to make it feel new.
Yes.
Encanto was a very boilerplate Disney film in a lot of senses, and I find the narrative didn't pay off as strongly. Luca, I think, was phenomenal. I thought it was
Yeah.
very heartwarming, but I just don't know if it landed on the same level for me as Mitchell's versus the Machines. But I don't think it's gonna really hit off in for voting because it came out so far
Yeah.
back in 2021. But I mean, it's the one that resonated with me. Let's
It's a very good choice. The Mitchells versus Machines is a really terrific film, and it's a terrific animation. I don't disagree at all, actually, at all,
All right, let's see your choice. Flea.
for sure. The most emotional resonance, the animation, arguably, they couldn't make that film not animated. They didn't have the footage.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like it was a different way of looking at what the contribution of animation could be. And not to spoil anything, but for people that are watching that softly, you also know there's creative choices later in the film where they play with different styles of footage that then really impact that film. I think Flea is really a tremendous achievement in what animation can be to dramatic storytelling. So that's why I would get my vote.
I mean, I did a little bit of calculus. I'm not
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
spoil anything,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, for me, Flea was resonant, but for me, Flea played mostly as a documentary,
Oh, did
and
they?
first and foremost as a
Yep, yep,
documentary.
yep, 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 yep.
Uh, but
We'll
it's
get there in a
it's
minute.
extremely emotionally resonant.
Yep.
Phenomenal film.
And
Um,
again, being very Canadian, we're sort of apologizing for each other's choices. Mitchell's versus Machines is excellent. It's a very, very good choice. That's a very good film.
all right, let's
There
get
you
into
go.
it. The next category
Yeah.
is actor in a supporting role. Our nominations are Kieran Hines in Belfast, Troy Kotzer in Coda, Jesse Plemons in The Power of the Dog, J.K. Simmons in Being the Ricardos, Cody Smith McPhee in The Power of the Dog, and Vincent's choice is. Oop, I forgot to open this.
Right.
Okay, Cody Smith McPhee in The Power of the Dog.
No doubt. It possibly was one of the easiest categories to do. That took me half a second. It wasn't close at all. The only other performance I thought was anything to consider was Troy Kotzer in Coda. I think that's actually quite a special performance. But Cody Smith McPhee, Power of the Dog, I think made that performance into something that I'm not even sure it was on the page. It's really, really special. It's interesting. It's a character that constantly reveals itself. It's a complicated performance. Um, it's really good casting, not just in he's a bit of an unusual actor, but there's a physicality to the performance. There's a mystery to the performance. He's also someone that we've not overseen. He's not
Mm-hmm.
someone I've seen in 20 films. You know what I mean? So there still is an air of discovery to him, whereas Benedict Cumberbatch or Kirsten Dunst we're more familiar with. He's a little bit more of an unusual character. For me, he's to be honest, actually, I think I would even argue. I think of it. I think it's the best acting nomination of the four categories. That's how far ahead I think that performance is. I think he's easily the best nominated performer this year.
I
Absolutely.
think something really interesting that you brought up in that he's not overexposed is that you believe that he is the character in the film
Instantly.
without doubt.
Instantly. Yep.
And he brings that sort of, there's anger, there's sort of
Yeah.
that sulking, there's a sullenness to him. And you're absolutely right. He has a sort of haunted air about him. And I think
Yeah.
he's a phenomenal choice.
Yeah.
He's
Hopefully
definitely in
you
the top.
agreed. Hopefully you agreed. You got that smile, Maria. All right. Supporting actor. Maria's pick would be, of course you didn't agree, Troy Kotsur-Coda.
Listen, we went in opposite directions here.
Yeah.
You know me, I'm a sentimental fool. And I loved Cody Smith McPhee. It was
Yeah.
literally something where I started writing and I was like, well, I gotta commit to it. The T is on the page. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Right.
So I feel like that was a lot of my choices this year, where I looked at the thing and I'm like, okay. And then the minute I went down to write them, I was like, oh, do I
Mhm.
really? It was a little
Mhm.
bit back and forth, but I think this year has been a really interesting year for film, because I feel like last year I was like locked, ready to go. I knew my
Yeah.
choices. This
Yeah.
year there was a little bit more back and forth, but
Yep.
Troy Kotsur had just a really heartwarming performance. It was
Totally.
really warm, but it was still, it still had that little edge to it. It had a sense of humor to it. I very much appreciate that in my my Oscar film. So
Yeah, it's a very good choice. Troy Kotsur, it would be my second choice for sure, no doubt. And I mean, I think Troy Kotsur has a very good chance of winning. But for me, yeah, Cody Smith, if he was sort of, I thought stole the show. All right, next up, best original screenplay. All right, pull this category up. So best original screenplay, the nominees are Belfast, Don't Look Up, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, and The Worst Person in the World. And Maria's choice for best original screenplay. I'm curious about this. I actually have no idea what you picked, because they're all, I can picture scenarios almost for all of them. So Maria's picked for original screenplay. Ah, wonderful. The Worst Person in the World.
I love this film. I really
Yeah.
did. I think it was something that I felt very refreshing. It's something that felt very truthful,
Yeah.
and I really, really, really enjoyed this film. I couldn't, in good conscience, put it for international. Listen, we're
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
ahead of ourselves. There also was a part of me who really wanted to choose Licorice Pizza for this, because I feel like it's a film that is it's a tragedy that people are completely misunderstanding it.
Yeah.
People are just like, oh, it has a happy ending. I'm like, yeah, like The Graduate, you know.
Yeah,
But
right.
I think there's a lot of interesting things in that film as well. But I think The Worst Person in the World just stuck the landing, and
Oh,
in
yeah.
those last couple moments for me to say, yep, this is the one for me.
The other thing that's really so special about Worst Person in the World is it finishes up as a film that didn't start as, in my view.
Yes.
And that's incredible, because it really works for what it is in, I'd say, the first act. It evolves, and then by the third act, I'm like, it's turned into something really quite different, and that also totally works. That film's a real achievement. It's a real
It is.
achievement.
It
Yeah.
really is. The
Yeah.
fact that it can evolve and grow
Yeah.
almost in parallel to its main character, it
Yes.
feels
Yeah.
it feels great.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if you agree. Licorice Pizza.
Yeah, it really came down to those two screenplays, no doubt. Worst Person in the World was excellent. I would go with Licorice Pizza. Um, I think more because of sort of the odyssey nature of that film, that there is so much going on. There's so many episodes happening, much of which is actually, I would imagine, at least on paper, relatively undramatic. There's
Mm-hmm.
so much that's happening, and you're going into restaurants, and you're sort of running around a little bit, and you're meeting these people that you don't see again, all this type of stuff. But it's a real blueprint for this film that is so sweeping and so enveloping. I think it's a real achievement. I think it's a really excellent screenplay. Paul Thomas Anderson, above Tarantino in my view, is actually, I think, the single best storyteller of Los Angeles in my view.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what he nails with Licorice Pizza is just how power and influence warps people's world around them.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
each
Yeah.
person that Alana Haim's character interacts with, the world is slowly warped around them, whether it's,
Yes.
like a 15-year-old who's selling water beds, or Sean Penn trying
Yeah.
to jump his, everybody agrees with them because they're powerful.
It's a really good observation.
And I think that's really the core of the film, and that's what being in Los Angeles is about.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a very good way of looking at it. I haven't even thought of it that. That's actually really interesting. It's a great film. It's a great screenplay, and as is Worst Person in the World. I mean, either of those, if they were to win, I would be thrilled.
All right, let's move on to adapted screenplay. So, writing an adapted screenplay, our nominations are Coda, Drive My Car, Dune, The Lost Daughter, and Power of the Dog. And Vincent's choice is, oop, trying to get this one open. Man, you really sealed this one tight. You don't want people
Yeah.
to know.
Right.
All right. Let's see. The Lost Daughter.
Yeah. This was another one that I thought was actually rather easy. It didn't take me too long to land on that film. I thought it was a very interesting story. I thought it was, I mean, I've not read the books. I can't comment on how quite literally how good the adaptation itself was, but the story really about the interior lives of women, interior lives as mothers, and the conflicts that are there, I thought was really interesting. But she framed it genre-wise, I thought more as some sort of existential suspense thriller, and I thought that really worked for the film. That it was more, in some ways, Hitchcockian, or at some point you just weren't sure of. I thought there was this sort of underlying menace to so much going on. Even the people just walking on the beach or just talking to each other, just some of just the very plain exchanges. I thought it was just had everything had this undercurrent of tension. I really thought it was an achievement, and that's also a reflection, to be honest, as much on the direction of Lost Daughter. But I was quite impressed with the script. I really was, and that's how I landed on that. Yeah.
That's exactly how I would describe it. It has an undercurrent of just menacing tension in
Yeah.
every interaction. And I think it's played so well against the
Oh,
sort of
yes.
setting that is like, pour
Precisely.
yourself a Bellini, we're going to the beach.
That's
And
it.
there's this unsettling tension the entire way
The whole
through
time. Yeah.
that is just, and it's so much of it is communicated through gazes. And
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that's a
Yes.
phenomenal, to be able to communicate that from page to film is a towering achievement.
Yes, yeah, I really do. And also, I mean, Olivia Colman so often, I think, is an actress that can engender so much sympathy and empathy. That then by having her be the lead of this and a little bit more of a standoffish performance, I think again, I think that's like really quite a strong film. So Maria's choice, let's see. Hopefully you agree with The Lost Daughter. We've agreed on what, one so far?
We've had a couple that we've agreed
Got a
on,
couple?
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is this another one? Maria's choice is The Power of the Dog.
I think the screenwriting that in that film is just it's towering. It's a towering achievement. It's a phenomenal film, and to adapt something that is that large and that heavy, I think it did a really solid job.
Mhm. I don't disagree. I don't disagree. It's a good nomination. There's no question.
I think the challenges that I've been having with these categories is I'll see them and I'll be like, I really liked all of these. Like in writing in an original or an adapted screenplay, I could have picked any of these films. But The Lost Daughter is,
Yeah. And I mean, even the nomination for Coda, that adaptation is from the French film The Famille Bélier, which we showed at WIFF 2015. So
yes,
that's also another interesting challenge, and you're just adapting from another film, and some of the challenges that which they did a tremendous job on. Yeah, that different challenges. It's actually 5 good nominations. It really is. But we'll see where that lands. Okay, all right. Next category: best film editing. All right, and the nominees for film editing are Don't Look Up, Dune, King Richard, The Power of the Dog, and Tick Tick Boom. And Maria's choice for film editing is, I'm curious. Hang on. Dune.
It's Dune. What are you kidding me? This is watching it, just the way that they pace this film is phenomenal. The way that they move from scene to scene is phenomenal. It's just a towering technical feat for them to do something like this with Dune. And especially with all of the moving pieces given visual effects, CGI, just to be able to move at the pacing. It's a massive film to begin with, and to be able to just pare it down, it's Dune.
It's a good nomination. It's a good nomination.
Okay, sorry. I forgot that I had your cards. All right. Tick, tick, boom. Okay.
Yeah. For me, this is another one that was fairly easy. I credit the editing on the reason I like the film so much. Um, I generally can do musicals in pretty small doses, and people all running around and trying to be sort of inspired and live their life through a musical. Like after about 30 seconds, I'm usually kind of done. I thought the editing was so energetic and innovative, and cut between. I mean, obviously cut between scenes. Editing is, but move the story along to new and interesting things at a pace that actually kept me engaged. And I don't know that I would have liked the film so much had the editing not been as um, obvious or as forward, if you will. I think to me, I actually even view the editing of Tick Tick Boom having saved the film for me. I really, really, really appreciate the film, the way that the film was edited. I just thought it added a lot of energy to it, not just because there's dancing or singing or whatever, and just kept things in it with a lot of forward momentum, and it really kept me engaged. For me, my other choice actually really would have been actually Don't Look Up. I think Hank Corwin's style of editing is really tremendous. He did The Big Short and he did Vice as well, because I think his editing is quite humorous. He's really, really, really cheeky with his editing, and for me, it really came down. Dune was also really, really good, but I focused more on Don't Look Up, but ultimately landed on my choice, which was Tick Tick Boom. Yeah.
I think that they're both of those choices when you're speaking of Tick Tick Boom and Don't Look Up, both very kinetic styles of
Yes,
editing.
precisely.
Whereas Dune is more of letting shots languish, let them
Right.
breathe
Right.
for a second. So I mean, it's really, in the past I've made choices of being they're more kinetic, they're more fast, they're more put together.
Yes.
But for me, that's the direction we're going in. The next one that we're going to is music original score.
Mhm.
Our options are Don't Look Up, Dune, Encanto, Parallel Mothers, and The Power of the Dog. And your choice is Parallel Mothers.
Yeah, this is Alberto Iglesias, who normally works. He's scored, I mean, I want to say the last at least dozen Almodovar films. It's really, really terrific. I think it's evocative. I think he also nails the melodrama of an Almodovar film. It's a very melodramatic score, and I just think it works with the film really well. I thought very long and hard about picking Power of the Dog. I love Johnny Greenwood's music. I loved his work on There Will Be Blood and all of PTA's films. That was really, really a very close second. That was a bit of a coin toss between The Power of the Dog and ultimately my choice, which was Parallel Mothers. I think it's a great score, especially with the opening credits. The music in that film sets the tone for the film the minute the film starts. So Parallel Mothers would get my vote.
All right.
All right. So Maria,
all right,
yeah,
go for it.
your
So
choice.
no. I think it's a phenomenal choice that you made. You know what? I think this has to be on me, but when it comes to films that are subtitled,
Yes.
I have some like sensory problems following the score.
Oh, that's
In that
interesting.
while I'm reading, I'll have to watch it a second or third time if I want to pick up on other things like that.
That's actually really interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm assuming you did not pick
No.
Parallel Mothers. So Maria's choice for best original score is, I'm surprised by this actually, Encanto.
I really enjoyed the music in this film. I
Good.
think
Yeah.
it was very strong. I think maybe I'm just after I filled out that they shouldn't get best animated film, I felt guilty, like Twitter was watching
Okay.
me. But
No. If Twitter's watching you, you know you're in trouble. That's for sure.
listen, they'll take me down. But yeah, no, I very much enjoyed the music in this film. It might have been that I just watched it when I had COVID and I was on all the cough medicine. But
There you go. There you go.
I think it was a very strong choice.
It is a good score. No two ways about it. I think it absolutely is a good score. Okay, another music category. Let's go to Best Original Song. And the nominees for Best Original Song are Be Alive from King Richard, Dos Oreguitas from Encanto, Down to Joy from Belfast, No Time to Die from No Time to Die, and Somehow You Do from Four Good Days. And Maria's choice for Best Original Song is, let's see, Dos Oreguitas from Encanto. So both music awards, in your view, should go to Encanto.
Listen,
Okay.
I enjoyed it a lot. I don't know if we're gonna get a Lin-Manuel Miranda speech going on there, but who
Right.
knows? Who knows?
Right.
Let's see what you have here. Oh, No Time to Die from No Time to Die.
Yeah, I mean, it worked. Unfortunately, I think most years, Best Original Song is a category I think could actually just be cut. I'm not sure there's always enough quality songs to really go with it. I thought No Time to Die fit into the classic James Bond opening credits mold of a song. My other choice would have been the Encanto song. It's a bit of a coin toss as well on that front. But yeah, by a hair, I'd go with. For me, the best song by a mile was not nominated, and in terms of what it does for its film, it should have been "May We Start" from Annette.
Yes. Yes,
That is a
because I think
film that really contributes to setting that film up. That song really works. I'm really disappointed the music branch didn't nominate it.
May We Start is such a solid choice because as
Yes.
whatever you might say about Annette,
Yeah.
it may be for you, it may not be for
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
May We Start is a phenomenal way to
Absolutely.
open that film.
Spectacular and smart and irreverent, and that to me is a song that really contributes to its film.
And I think it's a shame that we're sort of getting into these credit songs, I suppose.
Yeah, because I mean it's the stuff that's playing as you're walking out the door. Like that's it's not
Unless
the
it
best
gets a
original song
ridiculous
ever made.
amount of radio play, you're really not
Right,
gonna.
right. All right.
All right. And our next category is international feature film. Our nominees are Drive My Car, Flea, Hand of God, Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom, and The Worst Person in the World. And let's see what Vincent chose. Well, come on. Drive My Car.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, this category, when you're looking at these 5 films, it just keeps reminding me of one, why I love what we do with WIFF, of showing the best of world cinema. You put those 5 films up to any of the American or North American films, I'd argue actually stronger. Those are some really good nominations, and you don't have nominations for films like Parallel Mothers or the Iranian film A Hero, which was tremendous. That's a really terrific category. I landed on Drive My Car ultimately. I think it's such a slow burn of a film that over its 3-hour runtime absorbs you and just takes you in, and you realize how layered and how much is going on in that film. That's why I picked it by a hair over The Worst Person in the World. I think it really came down for me between those 2 films in terms of the patient viewer. By the end of Drive My Car, you're like, that film just had so much happening and very thoughtful and sort of deliberate. I thought it was a real achievement. But to be honest, actually, all 5 of those films for different reasons, including it has no chance of winning or what have you, but it's a very special film. Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom, that nobody has seen. It's actually wonderful. I really hope people do discover that in the next little bit. But my choice would be Drive My Car. Okay.
Amazing. No doubts there. Let's see.
All right, Maria, best international feature. Drive My Car.
Consensus.
Yes. There we go.
Agreed. It's such a meal of a film, and I agree with you 100% in that these 5 films here, I think I prefer to the Best Picture category.
Oh yes. Oh, like pick any of 5. Yeah,
it's been a kind of a weird year. Even any of these, I sat down and watched The Hand of God, and I was not expecting it. I very much enjoyed that film in that I think Paulo Sorrentino understands something about Italians in that they're deeply mean in the way that they love people. And I think even the scenes with his family sitting down at dinner, it's a very well put together film. But Drive My Car is such a meal of a film. You have to be very patient with it, but it pays off in spades.
It does.
It's a slow burn, and there's so much to think about. Even now, like I'll go stand in the shower and I'll just be like, remember that part in Drive My Car? Where, but Flea is phenomenal again. Worst Person in the World by a hair. And like you said, Lunana, Yak in Classroom is very special. I think these are better than the Best Pictures.
Yeah. Oh, for me, no doubt on that at all. And the trend that we've seen the past few years, I'm thrilled by, is the amount of nominations for international films, not just in the international category. Because if you're looking at world cinema, you could load up all of the acting categories, all the writing categories with films from around the world easily. And then I'm really happy to see all those nominations for Drive My Car, and then seeing Worst Person in the World given the screenplay, and people imagine a bigger cinematic world in my view. Okay, let's go to visual effects. So the nominees for best visual effects are Dune, Free Guy, No Time to Die, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and Spider-Man No Way Home. And the winner is the Italian accents from House of Gucci.
I was
No,
gonna say
no
whoever.
amount of visual effects or sound effects ever were going to correct the Italian accents of House of Gucci, let me tell
It's
you.
a me, Jared Leto.
Yeah, oh my goodness. No, visual effects, Maria, dude.
Again, it's such a massive film, and the visual effects, like you said, with the makeup and hairstyling and the costumes, it's just another piece in this major puzzle of how much you believe that this is real, this exists,
Oh,
and
yes.
how immersive it is for you. So, I mean, I to me, this
Nothing
was the
bad.
far and away. Everything else just felt very boilerplate. You know,
Yeah,
am I going
yeah,
to Spider-Man to the new Marvel film?
yeah.
It's just far and away the winner.
Nothing bad.
All right. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. We agree. There we go. Yeah,
All
no
right.
question. No question. Yeah, easily.
Our next category is sound. And the nominees are Belfast, Dune, No Time to Die, Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. And Vincent's choice is Dune.
For sure. It's sort of the showboat of the category. And I'm not against films that are actually quieter, a bit more subtle in their sound design at all, actually. Films like No Country for Old Men or Social Network I thought were best and showed the years they were nominated. But Dune has got to be the prize winner in this category. It's just the most, I would argue, sonically immersive film of the five. I think it just really works, and it just ties all of it in. It's a real achievement. Yeah.
No
Also, a
note,
lot of Canadians on that team, so that'll be nice.
no notes, cut, print, check.
Okay.
Go
All
on.
right, Maria, sound. Dude. Okay, so now we agree on everything. Okay, this
Okay,
is going well
listen.
now,
Listen, you
right?
know what? From that opening thing where you hear the throat singing over the
Yeah.
WB thing and you get the subtitle,
Yeah.
like my friends went to go see it in the theater. We went to go see it in the theater and they had some drinks beforehand and it came up and I saw them white knuckle on the side of the thing. Like that's the
Yeah.
moment. It
It's a
just
thing.
hooks you in and
Yeah, it
keeps you.
does. Yeah,
So
no, it's a terrific achievement. Terrific achievement. And Denis Villeneuve has a lot to be proud of with that film. It's a really good film.
it's a phenomenal film and I hope it sweeps every technical category it can. And you know what?
Yeah.
Above and beyond. That's
Yeah,
he deserves.
I think we'll hear lots of Dune on Oscar night. I really do, and it deserves many of them. There's no doubt, no doubt. All right, let's go to best documentary feature. All right, beautiful category as always. Best documentary feature: Ascension, Attica, Flee, Summer of Soul, or When the Revolution Could Not Be Televised, and Writing with Fire. And Maria's choice for best documentary feature is Flee.
Listen, it's such a beautiful, emotional, immersive story, and the way that they use animation in it is phenomenal. It couldn't exist without animation, and
Yeah.
the moment at the very end where they kind of play with the animation as opposed to footage is it's breathtaking.
Yes.
But to me, it plays mostly as a documentary, and that's why I chose it specifically for this category because I think it's the strongest within this. And what I love about it is it's very narrow. So many documentaries are like, here's this moment in time where everything was happening.
Yes.
But this is just zooming down a massive story about the Afghanistan war and
Mm-hmm.
a queer person escaping persecution
Mm-hmm.
into one person's story. And I think that is so important in how you tell a universal story. You have to be specific. There's
Really good take on that. It's a tremendously special film, no doubt. Open up.
all right. Hey.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's I do think it's the documentary of the year. I think it's really tremendous. The other film in the category that I think is they're all good. They're all very good films actually. I think Writing with Fire is wonderful. It's probably the least seen of the five, but Writing with Fire is really well done. I can't imagine how The Rescue from National Geographic was not nominated in this category from the filmmakers that made Free Solo. For me, that's just such an obvious omission. I know a lot of people are very hot on Summer of Soul. It's a really terrific film. And if it won, I wouldn't be mad at all. I just think Summer of Soul is much more of an achievement in editing. because that film's really about all of the incredible footage they found and they assembled through endless hours of footage. They assembled a film out of it. That I think is actually quite tremendous. But I think it's more about assembling footage
You
versus
know
what
what?
Flea did. I think Flea just achieved more in my view.
You are bringing up an interesting point that documentaries aren't as often nominated in the editing categories as
And
opposed
they should
to
be. And some
they
are
should
so
be,
should be probably
absolutely.
should even win.
It's a different skill set, but
Yeah.
it's still something that should be recognized. And I think that
Absolutely.
might be a conversation that should open up in the future.
And
But I
regardless, none
agree
of those
completely.
categories will ever be televised anymore according to the Academy, so
Absolutely,
don't worry
never
about it.
again. We have to
Right?
subscribe to ABC Go.
Yeah, exactly. My gosh. My
Please
gosh.
give
My
it.
gosh.
Everybody create a burner email so we can watch the
Yeah,
rest of the
yeah. Oh my
categories.
gosh.
All right,
All
our
right.
next category
The big
is
one.
directing. And our nominees are Belfast, directed by Kenneth Branagh, Drive My Car, directed by Ryosuke Hamaguchi, Licorice Pizza, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, The Power of the Dog by Jane Campion, and West Side Story by Steven Spielberg. And Vincent's choice is Paul Thomas Anderson for Licorice Pizza.
Yeah. Um, Ended up being a pretty easy choice. I think he's so clearly in command of his talents. He's, obviously he's clear inspirations from Robert Altman, these giant sweeping sagas of stories that are episodic. Um, I can't imagine someone else making that film, whereas I could imagine someone else making West Side. Well, someone did make West Side Story, or you know what I mean, or someone else handling Power of the Dog. I can't imagine someone else making Licorice Pizza. It just so fits so naturally into his sort of sweeping episodic multi-character universes. I just think it's an excellent marriage of a filmmaker with material. No question for me. He's a real. He's an astounding talent. I really think highly of Paul Thomas Anderson's work.
I think it's a phenomenal choice. I think he is. You're right. He's the only person who could have sort of conceived and birthed that film into the world.
Yeah.
And tremendous choice.
All right. Let's see if Maria agrees. Got a sinking feeling she didn't. So let's see what's happening here. Jane Campion for The Power of the Dog.
I think she commanded that film so well. I think there's not much more to say other than she very, very deftly put together a film that it sort of simmers and it seethes. Like it's a film that makes you feel sort of in the same sort of universe emotionally to something like The Lost Daughter, in that there is a menacing undercurrent to the film.
Totally.
And I think the way that she handled that was so well done. And I think it's a masterclass in directing. The fact that she's getting really, really great performances.
It's a really terrific film. And when it was announced that she was going to be making that film, my first reaction was like, oh, I'm trying to wrap my head around that filmmaker with that material. And then after you watch it, like, oh, of course. But she did a tremendous job with it. The other big piece of directing in here that I think is excellent is Ryosuke Hamaguchi for Drive My Car.
No doubt.
I think that's
no doubt.
Actually, that he would have been probably my second choice. That's a good piece of directing.
You know what? He handled that film so well. It
sure.
The way Drive My Car works, it almost does feel like those sweeping shots of the Saab kind of navigating through Japan.
That's interesting.
You feel sort of that feeling of being transported, and it's just it's almost like a contemplative, meditative feeling of you're being slowly driven through this film.
Well, anyone that throws up the opening credits 40 minutes in is clearly like
audacious.
Yeah, and they're doing their own thing at that point. So interesting. All right, so let's go to another big one. We've got 3 categories left. Best Actor. So the nominees for Best Actor are Javier Bardem, being the Ricardos, Benedict Cumberbatch, The Power of the Dog, Andrew Garfield, Tick, Tick, Boom, Will Smith, King Richard, and Denzel Washington in The Tragedy of Macbeth. Maria's choice for Best Actor. I'm trying to guess who she's. I bet you picked Cumberbatch. That's what I'm going to guess. Who did Maria pick? No, surprised me again. Maria's choice, Will Smith, King Richard.
You know what? It was a difficult one in this one because everybody's performance was so radically different in what kind of
Sure.
film they were too, you know? In The Power of the Dog, you're getting a very contemplative, a very menacing Benedict Cumberbatch. But I just feel like King Richard in this, Will Smith was the film. In every
Hmm.
other film, you know, in Macbeth and everything else, Macbeth is more of the concept of this adaptation of adaptation of Shakespeare. In Power of the Dog, you know, Cody Smith McPhee, it felt more like a very strong ensemble.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
not to you know bring down Ingenue Ellis, I feel like King Richard is a study between those two, between
Yes,
Will
yes,
Smith and
agreed.
Ingenue Ellis, and I feel like he really commanded the film in a
Hmm.
way that I thought was really, really strong.
He's tremendous in that film, no doubt.
All right, let's see what Vincent thinks. Let me pop this one open. Andrew Garfield, Tick Tick Boom.
Yeah, for me, it was between Will Smith and Andrew Garfield. It really came down to the two of them. I would pick Andrew Garfield. I just think he had to do more.
It's you know what it
It
is? It's
wasn't more
me.
complicated than that. I'm like, that guy is like earning his salary.
It's sort of the Ariana DeBose in
Yeah,
in
yeah, a little bit more
supporting
of that
actress.
logic. I'm like, there's a lot. It's not just because he sang and danced at times, therefore there must be an Oscar. Not at all. I think he is Andrew Garfield has a real talent or a naturally conveying empathy at any point, drop of a hat. But I thought he was energetic and charming and sad and there was a lot. There's maybe more variety of emotional ask upon him than maybe in King Richard. But again, Will Smith would have been my second choice easily. I thought he was really quite tremendous
You know
in that
what?
film.
It's him tap dancing for his life in that film, essentially.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
he's doing a ton there. Like you said, it's a
There's so
huge
much.
variety. He's phenomenal. It's
Yeah,
great that he did so much and that he's in not only, you know, this, but you know, Eyes of Tammy Faye. And
yeah, right,
he
right, right.
managed to be in
Exactly,
two of those
exactly.
films, doing a lot
Andrew
is
Garfield's a
really
tremendous
something.
talent. I love seeing him on the screen. I think he's someone we'll have for years to come. I think he's just absolutely wonderful. The thing I would point out too, though, is the Javier Bardem nomination. In my view, is a bad nomination.
It's
It's just this is
ridiculous.
just this is
He should be
no.
nominated for the thickest neck to play Desi
Yeah,
Arnaz.
yeah. It's just not. And Bardem's a tremendous actor. That doesn't need to be defended. This is not a good performance, and it's not a good film.
He's not right for the role, and the
No, 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 no,
performance isn't enough to compensate for the
no,
fact that that's not Desi Arnaz. You know,
no,
you're
no.
not sitting there being like, that's who he is, and I believe the role.
Yeah, no, not even. No, not even close.
No,
That
no,
performance doesn't
they
belong
should
there.
be ashamed. They should.
Exactly, exactly.
I'm like,
There you
if it's
go.
between this or having like Tony Hawk present an award.
Yeah, my gosh, my gosh. Tony Hawk presenting to Javier Bardem for being the Ricardos. Yeah, no, 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 definitely not. Anyways,
All
all
right.
right. Next up, Maria, take it away. Lead
All
actress.
right. Our next category is actress in a leading role. And the nominees are Jessica Chastain in The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman in The Lost Daughter, Penelope Cruz in Parallel Mothers, Nicole Kidman in Being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart in Spencer. And I have a couple guesses about who you chose, but Olivia Colman in The Lost Daughter.
Is that who you thought I'd pick?
Yes.
Yes, yes. And it's funny. I picked Coleman, and I still got thinking. I'm like, any awards ever? Do I ever not pick Olivia Colman? I was like, no.
You
It
know
doesn't
what?
matter what she does. I always like. I perpetually think like she could open up a dry cleaners. I'm like, best dry cleaners, Olivia Colman. Like she, I think she's just anything she does.
It
Just
feels like the line
yeah,
from Princess Bride, never go up against a Sicilian when death is on the line, never go up against Olivia Colman when an award is on the
yeah,
line.
yeah. She's. I think there's what struck me in that performance, and I've got to say, outside of Penelope Cruz, I'm actually not that hot on this category. I was not hot on Nicole Kidman in that film. I was not hot on Kristen Stewart, and I was fine on Jessica Chastain in her film. Um, Coleman, one of my first reactions was, "You didn't have to do this part. This is a pretty unlikable, complicated, twisted character. that I was like, good for you for taking this on, considering that she's so established, certainly the past 5 years especially. She didn't have to do it. I thought she added a lot to it. Um, I think there's a lot there. A lot of it too is also nonverbal. It's the way she reacts to people and looks and listens. She just has a way about her. But again, my own bias aside, Olivia Colman captivates me in anything she does. I remember back. I was on the Olivia Colman train back in 2011 when we showed Tyrannosaur. I think she's just such a talent. But it's sort of the most unlikable or messiest I've seen her on screen in quite some time, and I still think she pulled it off beautifully. I really think tremendously of that performance. I really do.
I think it's she has a phenomenal performance. And something that I'd like to bring up is how great is the continuity in performance between Coleman and Jesse Buckley in that
It's terrific, and it's a
it's
credit to both. Yeah, I
it's
agree with you.
phenomenal.
Yeah,
I
considering
just
in person, at no point are you like Jesse Buckley as an adult would be Olivia Colman.
Yes, but watching the film, you're like, obviously that's
Yeah, yeah,
Olivia
yeah,
Colman.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just the
Good point.
continuity and the performance. And I remember when I first saw the trailer, I'm like, is this brilliant or a terrible mistake?
Yeah,
And then I
yeah,
sat
yeah.
down and watched it and I was like, this is brilliant.
No, it really works. And again, that film is on Olivia Colman's shoulders. She's got a good supporting cast, but she has to carry the film. There's no debate. Okay, so let's see where Maria landed. I'm curious about this. Maria for Best Actress, Jessica Chastain, The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
So I went in a little bit of a different direction. Olivia Colman was my close second.
Okay.
What I think I really liked about Jessica Chastain is that Olivia Colman picked a role where she plays someone desperately unlikable and very frustrating and very menacing. I like that Jessica Chastain tried to bring some humanity into
Yep.
someone,
Yep.
and she plays it from different facets. You know, she is somebody who means well but
Yeah.
is doing something bad or is, defrauding people, and it brings different facets to this character, and it's very clear that she cares very deeply about the role. It comes
Yep. I
across.
agree.
And I think there's just part of the performance at the end that sold it to me is when she can't sell towards the very end of the film, when she can't sell any of her ideas and she walks up to the group of teenagers who's making fun of her.
Right.
And it's a sad moment. It's a little bit pathetic, but you can see that there's just
Yes.
that
Sincerity.
there's a sincerity. Yes, there's an
Yes.
earnestness to her that can't be stamped out. And I think that that was a very interesting choice in how she played her, because it could have been played as a just bald-faced, like, get a load of this terrible
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
or this person who is complex or
And
poor, but she had different facets to the character that I
and
enjoyed.
Chastain had a challenge too in playing someone that had become a punchline, someone
Exactly.
that was a Saturday Night Live sketch. You know what I mean? Um, Cole Chastain would have been my second, so would have been my third choice after Cruise. It's a good performance. I don't think I considered it much longer because I didn't think she was working with good material.
Mm,
I thought the film really bogged her and Andrew Garfield down quite a bit. But their performances were good. I thought they were sort of fighting against that script. I thought
mm.
the Tabby K script was really really weak. It sort of hampered them. It's a good, for me. It's a good performance, but I think Jessica Chastain's a great actress. I think Olivia Colman and Penelope Cruz actually were just working with much better material.
Mhm. For sure, for sure. I think Olivia Colman was there were two impulses there. There's, more of a serious impulse and then more of a
Yes.
campy impulse, and those are the two wolves inside me that are fighting at all
Yeah,
times.
yeah.
But I mean, both of them terrific. Penelope Cruz in Parallel Mothers was phenomenal.
Yes. Oh, she was. Yes,
She was
she
very,
was.
very good. She
And
carried that.
and not to be awful because this category is its own thing. In this category, honestly, I think there's a world where any five could win. Like it's going to be, pick a name out of a hat. Kidman, I love Nicole Kidman. Her second Oscar better not be coming for that film and that performance. The
Absolutely
makeup
not.
tests on their own should have failed the film of We Need Not Go Forward. And Kristen Stewart, um, it works for 5 minutes because Kristen Stewart has this perpetual "I don't want to be here" vibe to her. 2 hours of that in a film does not make for a good film.
What I like about Spencer is it has individual glimmers of a better film poking through it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the final scene of her ordering KFC
Yes.
at a
Yes.
drive-through,
Yes.
or the scene of her, just speak anything with Sally. Oh
Sally
shoot,
Hawkins.
Sally Hawkins. Yes,
Yeah.
anything with Sally Hawkins, her interacting with that. There are little moments where you're like, she could come through this, but it's
doesn't.
too much of a one person show for
Yes,
it
and
to be
also
carried.
arguably one note.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Anyways, all right, last category. It's the big one, Best Picture. All right, let's go to it. So the nominees for Best Picture of the Year are Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. And Maria's pick for the Best Picture of the Year is... This will be interesting because you picked a lot of those films in multiple categories. So see where you landed. Maria's choice for Best Picture of the Year is La Famille Bélier, which would have to mean Coda.
Yes.
Tell us.
I went with the sentimental choice on this. You know what?
Yeah.
I love The Power of the Dog. I love Dune. I think Dune is a technical achievement. It's such a big film, but to me, there was just part of the heart that I felt was...
Sure.
It's a great film. It's just it didn't have that sort of that sort of hook into me. The Power of the Dog is a film that I admire more than I like.
Yeah.
And I feel like Coda is just sort of picking up steam as we get closer to the
There's no doubt on that. I agree fully.
I think people now have enough. Everybody has Apple Plus for Ted Lasso to the point that they're like, well, I mean, let's give it a shot. I think that there were some very strong performances. I think that if there was a best ensemble, I would probably go with this film. The performances by Troy Kotsur and Marlee Matlin were phenomenal. There are
Lily
some
Jones
really
too. Excellent.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Excellent.
I think it's a very well put together film that it resonates with people, and I feel like it has potential. It has potential to be the one that people choose.
It's a terrific film. Coda's a wonderful film. No disagreement.
Let's see what you made. Licorice Pizza.
Yeah, this is another one I've got to say was oddly pretty easy. There's so much going on in that film, but not in the same way like, say, a West Side Story or Dune. Again, I'd go back to the episodic nature of it. The film perpetually seems to be going along without, sometimes you're like, how much plot is there even really in here? But it's always interesting, and I think the film is so confident with its soundtrack and populating its film with a very large ensemble of many people who have very limited scenes and who have to make an indelible impression and create a sense of universe between the production design, the costume design, and the cast. Very, very quickly establish universes that you're perpetually going through because the film covers so much ground. I really think that film is a really, really high achievement. My choice pretty easily to that group. It was really between that and Drive My Car, but I landed pretty quickly on Licorice Pizza.
Honestly, Licorice Pizza with that set would probably be my number 2. I would probably be my number 2, and that there's a lot there to chew on. After I saw that film, I sat down with my boyfriend, and we went through all of it, and we just talked for like 2 hours.
Yes.
And it's a film that the more I think about it, the more there is to dig in.
A really good friend of mine watched it 3 times, I think, in the span of 48 hours or something. Like, he was so taken with it, and I even feel like this in the casting choices too. You've got all sorts of intergenerational pieces going on with famous people's kids and all this type of stuff. That film has a lot going on in the best way. I think it's terrific.
Also, can we point out the casting choice of just casting the entire Haim family?
Sure, right? No, but exactly.
I think there's some really charming pieces. Bradley Cooper in his supporting role as. Just all of the pieces of that film work together really well, and you know what? I think it does have I think it has potential to come through because there is nothing people in LA love more than a movie about people in LA.
Oh, precisely. That is perfectly said. So, Maria, let's hold here. The Oscars again are on Sunday, March 27th. Should be an exciting night. Lots of picks from both yourself and myself. Hopefully many of the audience watching tonight agree with some of these choices, or may have discovered some new choices, or maybe even some new perspectives on why we think some of these people and some of these films deserve to win. And please do subscribe to our newsletter at windsorfilmfestival.com. Lots of updates on the Academy Awards and all things WIFF can come your way. And also subscribe to us on any of our social channels as well to keep in touch with all things going on at the film festival. On that note, let's hold here. Lots more to come from WIFF Off Script in future episodes, but for now, have a great night. Thanks everybody, and Maria, good job.
Good picks, Vincent.